So we're going to go ahead and do a final expense quote. Okay. We're going to go ahead and do an example of a client. Say that we have a client that wants $10,000 worth of coverage. The next one's going to be the coverage type. You're going to see all the different types. Okay. If you're not sure on so a level plan, if there's anyone real quick, a level plan means that you're going to get paid out immediately, day one coverage. Graded modified guarantee means basically you have to wait 2 years. And then the single premium whole life means you're making one quick payment. You're making one payment, usually to double your death benefit, which we can go into a completely training for that if you guys need it. But we're mainly going to be focusing on these three. Now, if you don't know what your client will qualify, if they're going to qualify for day one coverage, or if they're going to qualify for a greater or modified plan or a guaranteed issue, that's fine. The toolkit will tell you. You can always just leave it level. Okay. If the default is level, keep it level because when you tell the system what kind of health issues that it has, it's going to correct it. It will say, oh, well, you're not going to get level, you're going to get a graded or a modified plan. Okay. So if you're not sure on what your client should qualify for, it's okay. Just leave it level. Next, let's go ahead and talk about the client, right? Let's say this is a female. Let's say she's in, I know you guys are out there in Florida. So let's say that we want something in Florida. Let's say the client is 59, wanting a final expense plan for 10,000 to carry to cover the burial plans. Height and weight is optional, right? I tell people you don't really have to worry too much about the height. It's more about the weight. If the client is willing to give up that information, awesome, put it in there. If not, and they look like a typical average person, it's not going to be too bad. It really gets difficult when the client is extremely overweight. And even if that is, we do have carriers that do have no height and weight charts. So if you're not really sure on the weight, I'd always tell people put it in there, put it in if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. But if you do notice that the client is a little bit overweight, definitely need to ask those questions. Nicotine use. Yeah, it's very, very important that we go by this rule, by what it says. If it's just cigarettes, then just put just cigarettes. If it's, occasional pipe or cigar, make sure you're putting down exactly what it is, right? Um, and then selecting the product. So for this case, we'll say none, they don't smoke. Bank type, okay? This is how the client's going to be paying that policy. Do they have a bank draft or EFT, which is 95% of the time, right? Are they going to be using a direct express card, a credit card, or a debit card? A lot of carriers only accept certain things. And even though we have access to, all these different carriers, all of them have their own special rules and only take, what they want to take. So make sure you find out what they're paying. But again, 95% of the time, it's going to be draft EFT. Okay. So then you go into the drug and health information. This is where you find out if there's anything wrong with the client, right? If they have anything wrong with the client, we're going to put stuff in there, but we'll do that here in a second. So right now, let's just say that this client is completely healthy. There is no medications that they're taking and there's no health issues. All we do is we hit get quote, and then it's going to look through all the different carriers that we have access to. And then you can go ahead and select the carriers that you are approved with and go ahead and write the policy. And the best thing about this is that, say, for example, I'm approved with Baltimore I Provide, which is one of the best carriers out there right now for final expense. I can go ahead and I can just hit EAP, and it's going to take me over straight to the EAP on Baltimore's website. Okay, so this is going to show you all companies that we have access through over here at Benavest. And if there are companies that you are looking to pick up, make sure you're reaching out to Benefits to get those carriers if you do want them. Okay. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. It's going to show you all the different quotes from all the different companies, right? And you're really going to want to pick the companies that you do love working with. Okay. Okay. Now, let's say this same client we came across, same female, looking for 12 or $10,000, 59, had some issues, right? This is where we would go ahead and put in all the complications. Say this client had COPD, which is very common in the final expense field. Then we put in COPD and it's going to ask some follow-up questions. So make sure you have this information. If not, get on the phone call with your client and go over the questions. So if we do date of last treatment, we'll say that they were just treated, yesterday. they were diagnosed, let's say, you know, let's say they're diagnosed 5 years ago. Okay. Do they take any healers? You could say no. There's a pressure nebulizer on the medication. No. Again, I'm just reading the questions, going over it. And then once you have it done and it answered all the questions, you will then see it popped up there. If they have any medications that they're looking to take, this is where you put in the medications. Okay. So if I hit get quote again, now the system looks up for this client and all these health conditions that we put in. So they have COPD. We now see that Baltimore is the best because when it comes to COPD, they enjoy taking COPD. Well, I don't know if they enjoy it, but they take COPD. So here we can go with the Baltimore I provide and then the rural neighbors. As you can see last time when we didn't have COPD, it had Royal Arcanum up there. It had American General up there. It had a bunch of different companies that were cheaper, but as you can see, the underwriting is completely different. So make sure you're getting all the information from your clients when it comes to their health conditions, their medications. Make sure you're putting it into the system because the system will give you an accurate quote. That way, you guys don't have to worry about knowing which carrier to put your client with because the system does all the work for you. You don't the days of having to remember every underwriting guidebook from each carrier is long gone. The days of having to submit an application to 2 or 3 companies just to see which one's going to approve you are long gone. That's why this tool is so important. It makes your life so much easier. It takes so much of that admin work out of the equation, which is the best thing because in the end, we're all salespeople, right? We need to be on the phone making dials and doing what we do best, which is selling. And if we're spending a lot of time doing admin work, looking up all the different companies and underwriting and stuff, it just takes away from what we're doing.